Well, Spoopathon's over. And November is here, which is crazy because it feels like October just started yesterday. But, yeah, October was a crazy month, and, well, there's a lot to talk about. So, well, let's get to it. Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Smoke Dude, and I am back with another wrap-up. Yes, I am wrapping up the Spoopathon. Spoopathon 2025 went very well, actually. A rarity happened. I actually managed to get all of the books and comics that I wanted to read this month. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that I actually did it. But, yeah, so this might be a little longer than usual type of video. Hopefully it won't take too long, but it might take a little longer than these videos usually are. But yeah, I had a really good month. Went to Florida for a little bit. I actually have some footage from when I was out in Florida, so I'll just share it here so you guys can have it. Well, it's Thursday. I am in Florida. I've recovered from getting here, I should say, and now we're here. We're hanging out. We've ate. Probably gonna eat in a little bit, and not really much else for me to say. It's quite nice out here in Florida. It's not as rainy or as windy as it's been the last couple of times I've been out in Florida, but feeling pretty good. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully we'll keep doing well. So yeah. Well, it's October 17th. And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again. Well, it is a beautiful Saturday afternoon out here in Florida. Hopefully you can hear my voice over the music. But yeah, Florida's great. OU won today. It's feeling good. Can't really complain too much. Do it. Well, I forgot to record something yesterday, so I'll just get this out of the way. It is another beautiful Monday afternoon out here in Florida. It is the day before we leave, so yeah, I'm busy with writing and also watching the new talking story video. Probably gonna go eat in a little bit, but yes, this is Monday. It's gonna be a good day. Another beautiful day. I was just out there. It feels great. Not too much else to say. What's going on, guys? It's yet another beautiful Tuesday morning out here in Florida. Unfortunately, I shall be leaving today, or well, tonight, in about an hour, or 2 hours from now, I'd say, 2 or 3 hours from now. But yeah, I'm at my mama's bookstore. I did get the chance to come here and hang out for a little bit, so yeah, it should be fun. I'm gonna miss Florida. It's very nice and sunny and just a wonderful time I had while I was out here, so but I am looking forward to going back home. I have missed it, but gonna miss Florida as well. Yeah, so I had a lot of fun doing that. I got a lot of reading done. I got a lot of other stuff done while I was at it, though the videos kind of took a bit of a bit on the backslide because, well, again, I was on vacation. But I did manage to get a lot of books done. And like I said, that whole rarity happened where I actually completed all of the books and comics that I wanted to complete this Spoopathon season. So enough teasing. I will get to the actual books and comics that I read during the month of October. So yeah, let's just get to it. So for books, I actually read a good couple of them. I completed a couple of them. And the first one I'll go with is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. I was actually recommended this book by a few people. It's one I'd wanted to read for a while because I know Angela Carter is very well liked by a good couple of people like Neil Gaiman and Susanna Clarke and a good couple of people. I miss Amy Minton, the Mrs. from Talking Story, was the one who finally pushed me towards reading this book, and we talked a little bit about this book, and I had a lot of fun with this. This is a beautifully written, very odd take on fairy tales, an odd combination of modern and classic sense of fairy tales, and that is really what The Bloody Chamber is. And there's a lot of really fun stories. The titular story, The Bloody Chamber, is probably the longest. It's also the first story in this collection. It's beautifully written. I really love how it comes together. The prose in this is just sublime. But there's also this real wryness. There's also this darkness that lives within the beauty of the worlds that Angela Carter creates, and the way her language moves, the way it kind of moves to and fro. I really can't describe it. I had a lot of fun with it, though it could sometimes be a little hard to emotionally engage with, because it is very much like my friend Jason would call it. We're kind of sitting down to tell you a story. But overall, I really liked The Bloody Chamber. I thought it was a good book. I don't know if it's one of my favorites, but it's definitely one that makes me want to read more of Angela Carter, because this book was truly really really good, and it's really dark and sensual. I was kind of surprised where she would just drop the C word on occasion, just by happenstance. But yeah, this was a good book. I don't really know what else to say about it aside from I thought this was a book that really, again, paraphrasing Neil Gaiman here, it's kind of like a dark wine. You have to savor it. You have to consume it, if you will, really. And I think Angela Carter is really good at that. So yeah, Bloody Chamber, good book, and an appropriate starter for spooky season, because there are some really spooky books in the spooky stories in here. Though I would say this is more of a dark fantasy than a straight up horror book, but I digress. Next book I have is less beautifully written, but a lot more entertaining, and that is A Hot Dose of Hell by my good friend Steve Stark. This is a book, if I could describe it to someone, it's kind of like if Irvine Welsh wrote a horror novel. Very dark, very grungy, very darkly humorous. And I wouldn't say it's very PC. As a matter of fact, it's anti-PC, if that really makes sense. Well, I guess it does. People have been making fun of PC for a long time. Even people who tacitly support it have made fun of it over the years. But A Hot Dose of Hell is at once a very raw and unflinching look at addiction, but it's also kind of a pulpy romp about these two criminals, Pinky and Fred, as they go on this wacky misadventure to take down these drugs that are basically turning people into mindless savages. If I really could do like an elevator pitch, and I really dislike doing these types of elevator pitches, but I do think it is appropriate for this book. It's kind of like, to funnily enough use two Danny Boyle films, it's kind of like Trainspotting, but it turns into like 28 Days Later. It's a very pulpy book, so it moves really fast. It's not a very hard read. And it's definitely, there is some machismo in here, but there's also some really poignant explorations into addiction and trying to pull someone out of that black hole that is addiction. Though I did have some issues with this book. I do think that the attacks on the social justice people, I did think it was a little too on the nose, but I have seen a few people of that type in my life, and I will say some of them aren't quite, it's not that, well, I have seen it, and it's not too unrealistic, but I did think he was laying it on a bit thick, that these people were kind of self-serving jerks who were out for themselves, and basically all the worst stereotypes you could have about performative leftists are kind of played with in A Hot Dose of Hell. Some of it I thought was pretty funny and quite effective, and there was some of it I thought he kind of jumped the shark a little bit. But I really liked A Hot Dose of Hell. I think Steve Stark is a very talented guy. I'm also happy to call him a friend. I don't know if I have, it's also just a fun read overall, and it's not often I see like a gritty crime novel be given its due on the indie sphere, so I'm glad to see that there are some people trying to introduce a more hard-boiled voice to the indie book sphere, the self-published sphere, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm a little burned out. It's been a long day. But I did enjoy this book. I will say I did like, if we're talking about gritty books in a similar vein, I actually liked Sledge versus the Labyrinth a little more. It felt a little more assured. There were parts of this where it felt like Steve was still kind of finding his voice as an author. I mean, he can feel free to agree or disagree in the
comment section down below. But overall, I had a really good time with this book. It's a good palate cleanser kind of read, so if you're looking for something that's fun but kind of gritty and dangerous, I would recommend A Hot Dose of Hell. I did enjoy reading this book. And there's also some really fun characters in here. Pinky and Fred in particular, they are the standouts for a reason. I know a lot of people really like them, and they are a lot of fun together. I really would have liked to just see a book of them two just going on wacky misadventures, trying to, deal with, criminal shenanigans. But yeah, Hot Dose of Hell was a good book, and I quite liked it. So yeah, Steve, good book, and I'm looking forward to whatever else Steve puts out. So yeah, it's a good book. So the next book I'm going to be doing, it's not actually one book, it's actually two. It's the double feature, as I like to call it. It is Stephen Graham Jones's Killer on the Road and The Babysitter Lives. A saga double is what it's called here. These are two novellas from Stephen Graham Jones. It's him basically doing like I don't know, it's like a double feature, like a movie, except it's two novellas and not movies. One is upside down, and the other one is right side up. I was originally just going to read Killer on the Road because it sounded more interesting to me, and also it references one of my favorite songs from The Doors, and that is Riders on the Storm, which, much to my edification, that is, as a matter of fact, the epigraph at the beginning of the book. His brain is squirming like a toad from that very song. So Stephen Graham Jones knew what he was doing. I might say I did like Killer on the Road more. I will say real quick, I'll just get both of these out of the way as quickly as I can. I liked Killer on the Road more. I liked how this story moved. It's very fun. It's very fast-paced. But there's also some depth with the characters, and I actually liked these characters, and I wanted to see them succeed. And also, it kind of plays with the idea of a highway boogeyman. We kind of see this with the character of Bucket Mouth, who is this kind of deranged murderer / shapeshifter. And given Stephen Graham Jones being a Blackfeet and given his affinity for putting Native American mythology in a lot of his books, I wouldn't be surprised if the main antagonist of this book was a skinwalker, who is a kind of shape-shifting creature in Native American folklore. That is a pet theory of mine. I don't know if that is exactly what Stephen Graham Jones was going for, but I really enjoyed Killer on the Road quite a bit. It does reference the Doors song a couple of times, mainly with the crazy hitchhiker murdering people, but it's also just a fun story about a young girl trying to find her way in the world and kind of dealing with just the realities of being a teenager and also dealing with daddy issues. Because, of course, there's daddy issues in this book. And also, it's her running away from home and kind of exploration of how her running away from her problems doesn't solve the actual problem. It just puts a lot of people in danger, and that's ultimately what happens. But it's also one of Stephen Graham Jones's most fun books. I had a lot of fun reading Killer on the Road. It's very much in that kind of classic slasher kind of sense, which I know he's been doing a lot recently. The Indian Lake trilogy is what I think it's called. My Heart is a Chainsaw. I actually own that book. I haven't read it yet. But I know that's kind of his love letter to the slasher genre. And even though I don't really care for the slasher genre, I find it quite silly. Stephen Graham Jones gives a lot of tension and suspense with this story, so he really makes the genre work. Now, as for The Babysitter Lives, I actually thought this was going to be one story, and then it turned out it wasn't. I liked this story. It was a lot of fun. I really liked the characters in this as well. The main character is a lot of fun. I really like her navigating her relationships and, trying to take care of these two kids. And basically all the things that could go wrong with a babysitter goes wrong, basically. Like, the kids go missing, and she has to go find them, and then there's this weird thing going on, and then it basically turns into a haunted house story and gets really fucky. Really fucky in a way that kind of took me out of the story a little bit, which is why I like Killer on the Road a little more. I felt Killer on the Road was a bit more consistent with its pace and theme. This one just kind of seemed like it was kind of just sputtering a little bit. I mean, the first half of this was really good. And then the second half that's really where it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. I did like The Babysitter Lives, but there were a lot of things I really enjoyed about it. The dialogue is really good. I like the voice that Stephen Graham Jones used. Like I said in my Mongrels review, the guy is a true stylist. I really like how he styles his books, and here he really has a very active voice. It pulsates, it moves, and I generally don't care for when people use the present tense in books, but in both of these, I find that Stephen Graham Jones uses them both exceptionally well, and The Babysitter Lives is fun, but I did like To Kill Her on the Road more. I thought it was a better experience overall, even though I thought both books were fun. Both of them are probably very fun reads. Again, they're good palate cleanser reads. I recommend Killer on the Road a little more, but I do think The Babysitter Lives is a good book too. So yeah, give these stories a shot. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'll just put these down. And the last book I have is another one from a friend of mine. It was actually my favorite book that I read this month. That really surprised me in a lot of ways, and that is Beneath the Jack-o'-lantern Sky by Tyler James, a good friend of mine. Actually, for Halloween, if you recall, I actually did a video with him discussing the book and all the stories that are within. Another short story collection. I read a couple of those this month. But this was just good old-fashioned fun, and this book really kind of illustrated to me the difference of what Tyler writes as compared to straight horror, though there are some straight horror stories in here, so, I mean, there are some trigger warnings in this, but most of these stories are more spooky and macabre than actually scary. There are a couple of books that are, there are a couple of stories, I keep saying books, a couple of stories that are a bit more, they're more scary than, like, spooky. But really, what Tyler does here, he creates a series of stories that are melancholic, nostalgic, and fun, actually. A lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading this. And it's also funny. There's a really good sense of humor in this. And also, if you guys are fans of, like, Ray Bradbury and some of the stuff he did, like Something Wicked This Way Comes in particular, give this book a crack. That will definitely scratch that itch for you. I ironically was scratching myself, but that'll scratch that itch for you if you're interested in reading more books in that vein. And I do think that Tyler James, well, not happy, I'm happy enough to call him a friend, but he's also a very good writer, and I really enjoyed this collection far more than even I thought I would. I thought I would at least like this, but I really like this a lot, and this was definitely my favorite book that I read during the month of October, at least the one with just words in it. And it's just a really fun book. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I think Tyler's a really talented guy, and I just had a lot of fun reading this book, and hopefully you guys will too. Go check out Tyler's stuff. He's a good dude, and he's also a very good writer as well. So yeah, not really much else to say. So yeah, I'll just put that down. Well, moving on to comics that I read during the month, and going on from my favorite book that I read during the month of October, my favorite comic that I read during the month of October will be going first, ironically enough, and that is actually Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Horvath. This comic, this one was one that everybody was telling me about. My friend Zach from the Storytelling Dragon told me about this. My friends at the comic book shop were telling me about this, and it sounded pretty cool. It was a story of these anthropomorphized animals, kind of something you find out of, Winnie the Pooh or Watership Down, and one of them, our main character here, that's her, one of them is a serial killer, and particularly crazy one at that. And then she has to go on a cat and mouse chase with another serial killer when another serial murderer ends up appearing on the scene, and she's like, well, we can't have that. I really enjoyed this, though. It's well-paced. The comics, the illustrations are really good. I mean, I love, really, the, Patrick Horvath is another one of those guys, kind of like Mike Mignola or Eric Powell or, who else, like Will Eisner, who is very good at both writing and illustrating. It is not something that people can do both very well. And he is really good. I really love the illustrations in this book. Like right here, I I love the coloring. I know maybe he probably didn't do the coloring, unless he did. Did he do it? Let me see. Well, I guess he did, because it says written and illustrated by him, so I guess he did do the colors. The colors in here are really good. I love the pacing. I love how he uses the comic book medium in this. There's one scene where she's just kind of looking around. Here it is right here. Really like that. It looks really nice. And I think the thing I also really like, or her name is Sam. Sorry, the main character, that's her right there. Her name is Sam. And one of the things the thing I really like the most about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees is that Horvath never attempts to justify or excuse what she's doing. This isn't a Dexter that goes out and murders other people who have done bad things. This is a genuine psychopath. Sam is freaking crazy, and there is no bare bones made about it. She is as pure evil as one can be, being a serial killer. And this series does not shy away from that, and I really appreciate that it doesn't shy away from that, because there's a lot of serial killer stuff that I've read that attempts to try and explain things, that attempts to explain why the character is like this, which can be fascinating. But sometimes I find you don't always need that. Sometimes, someone can be just fucking crazy and just maybe enjoy doing it, and that seems to be what, Samantha's deal is. Though, there are hints of a backstory, but it's not really fully explained. Most of what happens are based on kind of the actions of the character. And there is a moment at the end of this that just completely caught me by surprise and kind of subverts the more ironically enough, human parts of Samantha that I really appreciated. And again, I'm really glad that Patrick Horvath did not back down in showing that Samantha is a psychopath. Like, she is a genuine 100% psychotic. Like, she is absolutely crazy. Not even just crazy. She's just evil. And is totally fine with where she's at. And that's kind of the conflict of the story. This kind of older, seasoned killer versus this more newer, more deranged murderer. So, yeah. Beneath the Tree Where Nobody Sees, though, was really good. Thank you, Zach, if you watched this video, for pointing this book out to me, and also to the people at my local comic shop for pointing this one out to me. I had a freaking blast reading this, and it was probably my favorite comic that I read during the month of October. So, yeah, had a lot of fun with this, and it's also just really good comic book storytelling. So if anyone's interested, check it out. It's a lot of fun. Keeping with the serial killer theme, I decided to go with another kind of horror slasher comic, and that is Harrower by Justin Jordan of Luther Strode fame, and Brom Revel, who is actually someone I am acquainted with. This was a lot of fun. I won't really say too much. It's not very deep. I wouldn't say it's the deepest thing in the world. I wouldn't even say it's the most complex thing I've ever read. But it is a lot of fun. It's a really fun take on the slasher story. And again, I find slashers to be kind of silly. I don't really like watching them all that much unless they're classics. Like, there are some like Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween that I really enjoy. But a lot of them, again, I find to be quite silly. And a lot of them just kind of become self-parody when it comes down to it. But this kind of leans into the tropes, but also does some really interesting things with the slasher tropes, and kind of turns it into more of this like conspiracy book, which is quite fun. And the art from Brom Revel is really good, though I kind of like the cartoony style. Kind of reminds me a bit of Jason Latour's style, the guy who did Southern Bastards. He also did Spider-Gwen as well, though there is a slight problem. A lot of the characters look the same, and a lot of them look kind of older than they're supposed to be, and it kind of throws me off a little bit. But yeah, it's aside from that, it's a lot of fun. Like the art, here's some really great action sequences. I really like that. It's also really gory, so I'm trying to avoid that because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube or anything. But yeah, it's a really fun story. It's also kind of sad at points. And it's also just good old-fashioned, fun comic book storytelling. And, again, here's some more art. I'm trying not to show the, super gory parts, so there you go. But yeah, Brom Revel is a guy, a friend of mine. I did start his series Gorillas from a few years ago, which is a lot of fun. Which is about a literal band of intelligent chimpanzees who are fighting in the Vietnam War. It's quite odd. This he just did the illustrations for. Pacing is pretty good. Storytelling is solid. Again, not the deepest thing in the world, but it is a lot of fun, and I do think it's worth reading for that. So yeah, we'll just put this down. Next book I have here, next comic I should say that I have is one Jeff Lemire. Yes, Year of Lemire. It did not end just because I did the Spoopathon. I actually did a couple of Lemire comics, and this year I finally got around to completing, I should say, Gideon Falls, which is him and Andrea Sorrentino's magnum opus, I think. This one is probably the one that they're going to be remembered for. This is kind of Jeff Lemire's love letter to Twin Peaks. I've never actually watched Twin Peaks, but from what I know of it, I know it's about a small town with some really dark secrets and some weird fuckery goes down. And that's kind of what Gideon Falls is about. And it's also probably the craziest thing that Jeff Lemire has ever attempted. Like, this comic is batshit insane. Like, just the paneling. Like, look at this. Andrea Sorrentino just outdoes himself in this series. And I could go for more, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody because it is a series that goes on for a while. I got all 6 volumes. I finally got the last 2 this month, and I ended up reading them all. And I liked it, but I have to say it kind of goes into that sort of Invisibles direction where it's so ambitious, so out of line ridiculous that it's so ambitious, it's so big that it kind of does it does collapse under its own weight. But I have to appreciate Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino for even attempting to try to do a comic that is this ambitious. Now, I do think the ending is a bit rushed, so that was a bit of a disappointment for me. And also the pacing in some of the areas is a bit hit or miss. But it does start brilliantly. I do think that it is worth reading, not only for just how wild it gets, but also for Andrea Sorrentino's magnificent artwork. I mean, the colors from Dave Stewart really make it pop. But I love the scratchy, grungy artwork and just the really experimental, like this right here. This is kind of a motif that goes to the series, and just the directions that it goes is just absolutely insane. And yeah, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed Gideon Falls for the most part, but again, I do think it does collapse under the weight of its own ambition, and that does kind of bring it down a notch for me. But I do not regret reading Gideon Falls. I do think this is worth a read, and a really good read for a Year of Lemire. I don't regret reading this book, so yeah. Last comic I will be talking about is another Year of Lemire read, and that is Swamp Thing Green Hell from him and Doug Mani? I don't know. Anyway, it's basically his take on Swamp Thing that isn't fish flies anyway, which I already covered on this channel. I like this book quite a bit. I do think, kind of like with some other miniseries, I do think a couple more issues might have done this series some good. But I do like this series. I do know that Lemire has said this is kind of a coda of sorts of his Animal Man run, which I actually also read earlier this year, and I can definitely see that there are a lot of themes and ideas that Lemire plays with here that are carried over from the Animal Man series, but also we see some recurring characters. John Constantine shows up in this book, and we also see Swamp Thing go up against the Green and the Red in a post-apocalyptic future. I don't know if it's as good as Sweet Tooth. I don't think anything will be as good as Sweet Tooth. But I do think that this book was really fun. I really enjoyed this. And it's also pretty solidly paced for the most part. Even though I wish there were more... even though I did wish there were more issues. But I did really enjoy the pacing of this. And also the artwork is really good in this. Though I'm going to try and avoid the super violent parts. Because Jeff Lemire... This is a Black Label book, guys. And Jeff Lemire does not hold back on the violence and the body horror. Like right here, look at that. It's just and Doug Mackey really does a good job with the artwork here. And there's some more actually. Oh, that's violent. There's some more really good paneling here. I really like the father-daughter relationship in this as well. Jeff Lemire is often really good at that, so, there you go. And also some good spread pages, like this one. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Derek Robertson's artwork a little bit, which is kind of funny because in the back there's a teaser for a book that he did with Tom Taylor about Constantine. There you go, right there. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I really liked Swamp Thing Green Hell. I don't know if it's one of Jeff's best stories, but I did like it. So, I don't think Jeff Lemire has done anything that's bad. Well, maybe except for Primordial. Primordial wasn't really that good. But, this one was pretty good for the most part. So I don't really have much complaints in that regard. So, yeah. That's basically all the books and comics I read. I did see a movie this month. It wasn't a scary movie, though it could be for a lot of people. It was One Battle After Another, the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And also, the first Paul Thomas Anderson film that I actually watched in theaters. I've never actually caught a Paul Thomas Anderson film in theaters before. This was the first one that I did. I watched it with my dad, and much of my surprise, he actually really enjoyed it. I thought he would take umbrage with the fact that it is a story about a bunch of radical leftists taking on a far-right cabal of people called the Christmas Adventurers Club. But my dad actually really liked it. It kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought he'd think the movie was kind of bullshit. But I'm glad he liked it. I'm always glad when my dad likes the movies we go see, because I've dragged him to some interesting movies, let's just say, in the past. But yeah, it's a good film. I don't know if it's one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best. I wouldn't even say it's one of the best films of the decade, as some people are already saying. But I liked it. I thought it was a really good film. It's probably the strongest film that Paul Thomas Anderson has made since Phantom Thread, though I think Phantom Thread blows this film out of the water a bit. But it's also probably Paul Thomas Anderson's funniest film since Boogie Nights. This definitely is him kind of coming back to that like Boogie Nights kind of very fast, loose style that made that movie what it was. One of my contrarian opinions on Paul Thomas Anderson's movies is I don't love Boogie Nights as much as a lot of other people do. I feel it's kind of him kind of mimicking some of Scorsese's stuff, except it's about porn. It's not about organized crime, which is nothing wrong with that. And I still think that Boogie Nights is a good movie, but I do think this is a more mature voice. This is a more mature Paul Thomas Anderson. This is a more this is a more rueful, I guess. That's not the right word. More reflective, pensive, I think, Paul Thomas Anderson. Despite how wacky and bizarre this film gets at times, this is actually a very reflective movie. This is a film about really the times that we're in. And also, it's a film that I've thought about more ever since I've seen it. And I liked it, but I've actually grown to like it a little more as time has gone on, and I've read reviews and I've thought about it. Because it's a film about kind of the hollowness of political violence and how many people who often commit acts of political violence are often selfish, hedonistic thrill seekers, and that's not always a good thing. I know that's quite obvious. And that's not me being like biased against, leftist revolutionaries, even though I am. I do think the characters in this, even though, they're leftist revolutionary, I do think they're sympathetic. He doesn't shy away from the hollowness of political violence and just how, it's often much better to live quietly, to live a life of quiet integrity, of quiet, of setting your own roots, being a good person, doing good things. Like that's really what I think the film is about. Pursuing these like radical political extremes isn't really going to get you anywhere. Like literally all the characters who try to pursue these political extremes, like all of them get screwed over in one way or another, one battle or another, if you will. Sean Penn is in this. He is probably the standout. I don't usually say that because I don't really like Sean Penn all that much. Not only because of some of his conduct in real life, but also I also just think he's an actor who calls too much attention to himself, doesn't always commit to the role. He's sometimes, I find he tries to show how great of an actor he is instead of just committing to the role and giving a great performance. But here he is totally committing to the role, and he really and this might be one of his better performances in years. Like, I find that he's at his best when he commits to the role, when he does something like a Milk or something like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where he's not trying to show everyone he's a great actor. He's actually just committing to the role. And he is great here. He is hilarious, but he's also like really sinister and kind of pathetic, all honesty. I actually caught myself feeling some pity for him, even though he is a terrible person. But yeah, it was a really good movie. I don't know if it's one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best. He has been sort of in a... I didn't really care for Licorice Pizza, even though I thought it was a good movie. I didn't really take to it. I do think this film is a lot better than Licorice Pizza. But, yeah, just kind of wasn't my thing. But yeah, this movie was. I did like this film. And Leonardo DiCaprio is really good in here as well, playing this kind of burned out, like middle-aged dude. Also has some really funny moments being an out-of-touch dad, which I always love. I love out-of-touch dad humor. So, even though I'm only a 24-year-old man. But yeah, that is about all I watched, read during the month of October. So, yeah. Sorry if this video is a bit long, so let's get this out of the way. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. What did you guys read and watch during the month of October? Did you guys read anything spooky? If not, what did you read? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe as always. You can also find me on Twitter. You can also find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You also find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. I'm starting to get the hang of Blue Sky. And like I said, like, comment, subscribe. As my friend John Minton likes to say, it feels good when you do it. My voice is starting to give out a bit because I've been talking for so long. So, yeah, I'll just get off of here. Hopefully you guys had a great reading month, and hopefully in November, you guys have a great reading month as well. So, yeah, until next time, see you guys later. Bye-bye.